Okay, I just took this Star Destroyer out of the freezer after a couple of hours. In theory, from what I understand, that should make the glue on the bridge brittle enough to take the bridge off. So let's see how this goes. Okay, that was interesting. So I finally got a piece off. So it looks like I got the top half of the bridge, but not this lower half, which I have to get off as well because this includes both the top and the lower half of the bridge. But I just thought I'd show this. I needed to turn off the camera for a little bit because I needed to get better leverage on it. And after I did that and just wiggling this back and forth, up and down, eventually I released the glue along these edges. And as you can see, it came off very cleanly. I could glue this back on if I needed to. But now I need to get this lower part off, but I can see it a little bit better. Hopefully I can get a knife in here and work it out. I may have to put it back in the freezer because it's warmed up a little bit, but I'm going to give it a little bit of a try here. Actually, now that, actually, I think it's going to come right out. There we go, came right out. So there we go, we have the bridge off. No damage to any of the parts. Clean break of the glue. I now have a two-part bridge here, which I can put back together. And we're going to replace it with this one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start prepping these. And I'll come back after I do that. And I've been going back and forth. I was just going to do the bridge, get it on there, then do the engines, and then do the turbo lasers. But I don't want to get this all glued into place. Alright, so the camera cut out there. So I was going to put this bridge on, get it all set, put the engine stuff on, get it all set, and then work on the turbo lasers. But I've decided, I think what I want to do is I want to grind out these turbo laser slots first. So after I do a little bit of prep on this, I'm going to get out my Dremel and see what we can do about this. And I'll probably do at least one of them on a video, but again, with the camera, the way that I have it set up, getting the leverage that I need is going to be a little bit difficult, so I'll probably do one and then take it off. The trick is going to be, I want to leave these three lines and try and only flatten out this middle part. Alright, so right now we're going to try and grind down these the molded in turbo lasers so that I can use the new ones from Mel. I'm going to use my Dremel here. I'm going to start with a really fine grinder it's relatively small so that I can hopefully get in here without hitting too much that I don't want to. I have some more aggressive things that I'll work up through if this doesn't work. Alright, so that's pretty good. It gives you an idea of what I'm going to be doing. You can grind these down. I've got a little bit of cleanup work to do afterwards, but it actually went pretty well. I'm going to grind out the other 8 of these, and we'll be back. Alright, I finished with the turbo lasers. They seem to came off pretty good. There might be a couple little spots that I'm going to clean up later, but they're relatively smooth. I think they're pretty much ready to go. So my next step is I'm going to wash the parts, get them a coat of primer. Okay, we're finally to the painting. I have primed, I washed and primed all of the parts. So there's the bridge. Detail, it becomes more apparent once you've primed everything. Everything looks good. I obviously took that, and I took these engine cowlings off of the sprues. I have my Vic out so that when I glue them, I get them in the right orientation. I left these on the sprue while I primed them so I wouldn't lose any of them. So cutting everything off the sprue is pretty easy. I mostly just use snips or the X-Acto. The only thing you have to be careful of is this, the material is very brittle, so it will break and sometimes will come apart in places that you're not expecting. So just be prepared when, like, I cut these off. You have to just be prepared. They might you might not be expecting them to fall away. You know, you expect to cut it, but sometimes the little loop holding it will shatter and they fall. So just be prepared for that. Keep them on a table or something. I also have the original bridge and I have the ISD that we're working on. I am gonna go with, I'm trying to match the original model. I may eventually in time try and repaint the whole thing a very light gray to more closely match the movies. But for now, I'm gonna go with FFG's paint scheme with the dark gray, I don't know, patches or panels. So I'll be doing a couple of dark gray panels on this. So what I'm going to be using Administratum Gray for this. And like always, we're going to get some paint out, wet it down, get a good coat on everything. The rings, I'll probably do one side at a time. Might start with those so that by the time we're done, we'll be able to do the other side. Watering the paint down like this makes a world of difference. I recommend always doing it. There's very rare occasions where, like engine glow and stuff, I usually don't do this. A thicker coat is okay there, but this will let the paint settle really nicely onto the model without leaving large blobs of paint. So the visible side of this, or the more visible side, is going to be with these tabs out, because when you attach it to the model, tabs will be out. The inside will not be as visible. Okay, now the parts are dry. I did go back and put a second coat on the bridge and the rings. That's what happens sometimes when you water down your paint. It settles in nice, but sometimes it doesn't give you complete coverage. But I'd rather have that and have to do a second coat than to have globs of paint all over the model. So we're gonna start gluing these things on. I'm gonna start with the turbo lasers. The turbo lasers have a single round turbo laser, which goes the furthest in the back, and then the rest are all look like this. So we'll start with that. I may try to make the bottoms of these as flat as possible. But I'm going to use as little glue as possible on these, and I am going to try and angle them slightly. I don't want them all just pointing straight off to the side. I'm going to probably have them angled slightly towards the front. Okay, so that's all of the turbo lasers. They look pretty good. And that's before they get washed and dry brushed and all that. Alright, so we're gonna work in the engines, so that with the engine cowlings, the important thing is to make sure you have one of these tabs straight up, and then the other two will be off to the sides. So you just want to make sure one tab is straight up. Alright, so there's the engines. They look pretty good. The orientation's pretty good. Alright, now the bridge. The color's looking okay to me. I think once it's washed, it will darken up just enough to be a decent match for the rest of the model. Okay, so I'm just gonna put the dark gray on a couple of panels here. I'm gonna try and put it on similar panels as to the original. Okay, now I'm gonna do a little wash. I've done a little wash mixture here. Basically, a very small drop of dish soap, a little bit of water, and then some Nuln oil. So it's just dish soap. In theory, will keep the wash from pooling anywhere on the model, because I don't want it to get too thick. And then the water just thins it out a little bit. Yeah, I don't want this to look too dirty when it's done. So I'm gonna start really light here and go from there. I think I'm gonna start on the back with the engines and work around. Okay, I'm just gonna dry brush a little bit of gray over the washed parts. Okay, just wanted to get some final shots of the ISD1. On the left, I have an original model on the right. Laser turrets. Bridge, I think the color match worked out pretty well. Overall, I'm quite happy with it. So a couple of things to think about. So it probably, to get the original bridge off, I had it in the freezer for a couple of hours, got it out. You saw part of the video of me working on it. It probably took me a little over 10 minutes of wiggling, prying, pulling with a fair amount of strength in order to get it off. So don't get too frustrated with it, and also don't go bashing it around too much. You don't want to damage anything that you need to keep. So just be patient. I did it by wiggling side to side, trying to tilt it down in the front and back up. So side to side, up and down. Not really pulling straight up or going straight down. Try and tilt it down in the front and then pry up from the front. Most of the glue that I saw, there's a little bit around the edges, but most of it is right in where the neck comes up into the top of the bridge here. There's a peg and a hole, and most of the glue is there, which is why I think if you tip it down in the front, you're gonna have a better chance of kind of breaking that seal that the glue was made. I was able to do it. Like I said, it probably took a little over 10 minutes to get it done after it had been in the freezer for a couple of hours, and there was no damage, but it did require a fair amount of force on my part to make it happen. The rest of it, the dremeling went pretty well. I think I mentioned in the videos that it was kind of half grinding, half melting the plastic, but just don't use too big a bit. You want to make sure that you leave as much of that surrounding structure as you can. Sometimes I suppose you might have to touch up some of the paint and stuff around there. Mine wasn't too bad. I did dry brush in and wash a little bit around it just to make sure it blended well. The engine cowlings are probably the easiest thing to do. They glued right on. But I do recommend pre-painting them before you glue them on, just to get the interior of them well painted. Now if I do another one, which I probably will eventually, I'll probably convert this other one at some point. I may go for a full repaint and go with without the dark gray paneling. And if I do that, you know, we're gonna have to also repaint all of the engine glow and everything else as well. And I would want to do all of that painting before I attached those pieces again. But all in all, it was a fun project. It's a little nerve-wracking taking a model that you spent $50 for and ripping it apart and sanding it and grinding it and everything without knowing for sure that it's going to come out well. But in the end, it all came out well. Just be patient. And I think it looks a lot better than FFG's bridge, Mel's bridge. I think it's significantly better. And it's the more classic Star Destroyer look, too. And I was pleasantly surprised with the turbolaser turrets. I didn't think that they would make a huge difference, but they did make a big difference. Now, I didn't do the really tiny little dorsal turrets. I just didn't think that they were really going to add enough to the model. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. I'll be doing a lot more Armada and Legion videos once it comes out shortly. Thank you very much.